It is Monday, January 18th, 2016. Welcome back to CBS This Morning. More real news ahead, including the new battle between Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders. Former Clinton advisor James Carville is in Studio 57 to review the Democratic race. But first, here is today's eye-opener at 8.
It's been a grueling and tense 48 hours, but today, at last, the wait is over.
Tell me, how's your brother this morning?
He's just really happy to be out, working really hard to get himself better so that he can come back home.
As those prisoners were released, Iran received a controversial reward for cutting a deal to freeze its nuclear program.
The competition was intense. In fact, they actually shouted a good portion of their answers last night.
Politics as usual for Donald Trump and Ted Cruz. They can hurl insults just like every other run-of-the-mill politician.
This tap water used to be brown. It now looks and smells fine, but the corroded pipes still make it unsafe to drink.
It's fair to say there's never been a debate like the one this afternoon. Should the United Kingdom ban Donald Trump?
The worrying thing is if he does get elected, it would be on a very sticky wicket.
At the GOP debate, Donald Trump defended his concerns about whether Ted Cruz is eligible to be president, saying there is a big question mark on your head. But there's also a big question mark on Trump's head if the wind hits him just right.
This morning's Eye Opener at 8 is presented by Liberty Mutual Insurance.
I'm Charlie Rose with Gail King and Benita Nair. Nora is off. 3 of the 5 Americans freed by Iran in a prisoner swap hope to meet their families this morning in Germany. The Americans were traded for 7 Iranians held in the U.S. Jason Rizian, Saeed Abedini, and Amir Hekmati are at an American military hospital in Germany. Another prisoner apparently stayed in Iran, and we know little about him. And the Boston Globe says Matthew Trubisky is already in Massachusetts. He was released separately from the others.
Amir Hekmati is a former Marine. He was arrested in 2011 while visiting his grandmother. He was charged with espionage. Hekmati's sister landed hours ago in Germany, and she spoke to CBS News while on the flight.
When he said hello, I said, am I talking to a free Amir? He goes, you sure are. But even then he paused and he's like, God, it's so weird, like it hasn't hit me yet.
The swap followed 14 months of diplomatic bargaining that started on the sidelines of the Iran nuclear talks. One American was not released. Former FBI agent Robert Levinson disappeared during a trip to Iran in 2007. His wife and son are here in Studio 57 for their first interview since the weekend's prisoner swap. We'll get their reaction ahead on CBS This Morning.
Democratic presidential candidates have just 2 weeks left to sharpen their attacks before the first primaries. The 3 hopefuls sparred last night in the final televised debate before the Iowa caucuses. They battled aggressively, especially about health care and Wall Street.
My proposal: provide health care to all people, get private insurance out of health insurance, lower the cost of health care.
I have to say I'm not sure whether we're talking about the plan you just introduced tonight or we're talking about the plan you introduced 9 times in the Congress.
What this is really about is not the rational way to go forward. It's Medicare for all. It is whether we have the guts to stand up to the private insurance companies.
President Obama has led our country out of the Great Recession. Senator Sanders called him weak, disappointing.
He and I are friends. We've worked together on many issues. You've received over $600,000 in speaking fees from Goldman Sachs in 1 year.
Now you bring up President Obama here in South Carolina in defense of the fact of your cozy relationship with Wall Street.
The hedge fund billionaires who are running ads against me right now, and Karl Rove, who started running an ad against me right now, funded by money from the financial services sector, sure think I'm the one they don't want to be up against.
Yeah, thank you.
With us now, Democratic political strategist James Carville. He's a longtime Clinton advisor. He managed Bill Clinton's 1992 presidential campaign, and he is a Hillary Clinton supporter and donor, but does not have an official role in her campaign.
Thank you for that.
So, knowing where you lie,
right? Yeah, okay.
How did she do, and what dent do you think she might or might not have made in what some people call the surge in Iowa for Sanders?
I think she did very well. And I think the contrast is pretty clear that she's saying she wants to build on the things that President Obama did, like Dodd-Frank, like the Affordable Care Act.
So she needs to identify with President Obama.
Well, I think she's saying she wants to build on where we are. I think he's saying that we need to get rid of Dodd-Frank and go back to Glass-Steagall, or we need to get rid of the Affordable Care Act and go to a universal
Surely
single
you're not
payer.
suggesting she has been tougher on Wall Street than he has.
Well, look, he wants to go back to Glass-Steagall. I mean, go into who is tougher, but I think...
Well, but Glass-Steagall is separating those two roles of
I understand,
banks.
but I'm saying she's making the argument that, from what I can tell, Wall Street is not crazy about Dodd-Frank. She says that she wants to keep that, build on it. At the same time, I mean, I just think there's a real distinction made. And I think she went out to make that distinction last night, and I think she made it pretty easily and pretty convincingly.
Do you think Hillary Clinton would be tougher on Wall Street than Bernie Sanders?
But maybe not, but she'll be plenty tough enough. I mean, Bernie Sanders is the kind of gold standard. I mean, I don't know if that's a question of the election. I think she'll be plenty tough enough, and I think Wall Street does not like Dodd-Frank, and I think she's a very big supporter.
But we have to recognize you have New Orleans values, don't you?
That's right. Whatever that amounts to.
A lot of people are saying this pivot, sort of the attack that we saw last night, might be a little late in the campaign. Her husband, Bill Clinton, made a comment about it in the New York Times. Do you think that this should have started earlier, that she stopped focusing on the Republicans?
No. I mean, look, I think the big question is, Senator Sanders, I read my friend Bob Rice was saying that he can win. I read a bunch of, okay, right now we're going to Iowa. Democrats are going to start picking a nominee. By the way, if the Democrats lose this, we lose everything. We're totally wiped out. The House, the Senate, the Supreme Court, the
White House,
legislators, the governors, everything. And, the simple question is, how are you going to pay for this? And we keep getting told, well, gee, we'll come up with that. We'll come up with that. And I think before Democratic voters go to post and talk about who we're going to pick, I mean, I think these are hard questions. I guarantee you the Republicans are going to ask these questions in the general election. And I think people are waiting for his answer on this kind of stuff. And I think it's a totally legitimate question to ask. They asked about his health record. He said, well, I'm going to send a letter. And, okay, we'll see what the letter says.
But she said that she released her health records. But, James, can we talk about the poll numbers? Because they're all over the place. One poll has her 25 points ahead in the national poll. The gap is clearly closing in Iowa and New Hampshire. What poll do you pay attention to, and what are you concerned about when you look at those numbers?
Just as a sort of general thing, primary is much more difficult to poll than generals. And a lot of the difference is how do they screen, how do they ask questions. It's really not kind of a suitable question for the time that we have here. I think, like most people, I kind of look at the aggregate numbers. I look at the direction of the polls is more than the actual specific number.
So what are you worried about?
I worry about everything. People in politics, they call you to say, I understand the Clinton people worry. Of course, we worry. I worry in politics, everything. Until the votes are counted, I'm scared to death.
You should be. Taking the experience you've had in presidential politics, does it look like, through your eyes, that Donald Trump will get the Republican nomination?
Man, look, Cruz, I think, has got it more thought out. I mean, he's got real fire in his eyes. But Trump is, he's very crafty. And Charlie, you've watched a lot of entertainers and stuff in your day. He has like a real timing touch to him. He can really turn a phrase. If I had to bet right now, and I've said consistently, I thought Cruz was the most talented of these Republican politicians I've seen in a long time. He was at my house a couple weeks ago. Mary gave a fundraiser for him.
You had a chat with him, didn't you?
Right, I did. And I got him for 33 cents on Predicted in Iowa, now at 58. And I was asking, I wanted to see how my investment was doing, given the stock market. I got to make money betting on politics. And I think he's got a big... he's got an idea where he's going. He's got it pretty thought out.
So you think it may be Cruz more than Trump?
I kind of a little bit.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, James Carville, very much.
Thank you.
Did Sean Penn think drug lord El Chapo would be taken alive? Ahead, what you didn't see in Sean's 60 Minutes interview with Charlie. But first, it is 8:09. Time to check your local weather.
All right, good morning, and thanks, Gail. Lots of sunshine today. Yeah, don't let that fool you. It is going to be downright cold today. It only feels 4 degrees. 18 is the actual temperature. The winds just will not let up until about Wednesday morning. Now, it feels into the single digits, even below 0 for some, and that will be the same case tomorrow morning. Actual temperatures headed to the 20s, very similar tomorrow.
First Alert Weather, 97% accurate for the past month. This morning's Eye Opener at 8.